So the Sentinels are now taken care of. So what's next? So the X-Men are all pretty beat up. So we spent the first part of this comic, I think this is number 14 or 15 of the X-Men. I think it's just the X-Men right now. I don't think it's the Uncanny. Maybe it is the Uncanny. Anyway, the X-Men, they're like rushed to the hospital. Iceman's like in a coma. Beast is doing pretty bad. Marvel Girl's knocked around. So, and then Cyclops would beat up. Angel's the only one who's kind of like unscathed, it seems. And so Professor Xavier is like around, and he's still pretending not to know these guys. And he keeps mentioning like, oh, send one of the healthy X-Men to like help me with this thing or help me with that thing. And we get word from Angel, because he like calls the voicemail at the mansion, that his parents are going to come visit. And so Charles tries calling the parents and being like, oh, hey, we're not around. And they're like, oh, whatever, I'll just come by for a few minutes. And then they hang up. And Charles is like, ruh-roh. Warren, you need to get home like right now and figure this out. And then when he's flying, right before he leaves, Charles is like, hey, I feel dread, so be careful. And then Angel's like pondering on this as he's flying back, being like, oh, the professor usually feels dread when there's actually dreadful things to be. And there's dreadful things. So Angel gets back, and there's some shenanigans at the mansion, and he gets knocked out by a mysterious figure. Then Professor X like figures it out and grabs Cyclops and's like, hey, we gotta go take care of this. Beast and Marvel Girl are gonna look after Iceman. And so they head out, and Iceman's like in a coma, and he's like moaning and saying stuff, and they can't like give him any drugs or anything or help him because he's an Iceman, right? But then at some point the doctor's like, I'm going to use this experimental sulfate drug. So I think that's probably going to make Iceman more powerful, would be my assumption. I don't remember. Again, I've read this 10 years ago or so, maybe more. I read it a long time ago, actually, more than that, maybe like 20. Anyway, so that's where Iceman's left. Beast and Marvel Girl are just hanging out at the hospital. Oh, so Charles and Cyclops head back to the mansion, and they also get like jumped by a mysterious figure and beat up and knocked out and taken captive, essentially. For some reason, I just read this a few days ago. I think Marvel Girl and Beast also get captured. Do they? Do they come back and get captured? Oh, they do. They go to the mansion. Oh, I do remember. Okay, I'm glad I remembered. So they go back, and then the mansion's been like restructured in like the afternoon that they went to go fight the Sentinels, to turn into a huge trap specifically for all 5 X-Men and Charles. And so they're each knocked out individually, one by one, and then Warren's parents show up, and we find out that it's Magneto. He's back. Woo! I don't know if I'm going to tie this into the Sentinel arc or the whatever the next thing's going to be, which is probably more Magneto. We'll see. So the second part of this secondary Magneto arc, I guess, is this is a separate thing. You'll see. I'll just come up with a separate thing. But part 2 of this arc involves the Professor Xavier wakes up and he's got like a weird magnetism thing blocking his telepathic powers, and he uses some sort of bullshit power like counter transference rectal magic or whatever to break it, and then he's able to like rouse Jean Grey and Hank McCoy, Beast and Marvel Girl, not respectively. And then they're able to they're just dazed, and then they're able to like rouse Angel and Cyclops, and they're in a precarious situation where they're stuck on this like thing that's getting higher and higher, and they're running out of oxygen, and they can't like if they hit it too hard, they'll like collapse to the earth or something. And then Professor X has like some schemes as usual, and he's like, everyone shut up, I'm going to think about stuff. And so he then rouses there's a lot of rousing in this. He then rouses Iceman, who got the what's the medical term? He got like the injection. There's like a specific injection that he got to like help with his like coma stuff. Sulfate drug. He got the sulfate drug, which is what they used to call just like most medication, because most medication is based on like sulfate something. I don't know. You can go ahead and watch Stone Man or Stone Wars. What was it? Aegis Stone. I don't know. It's some anime that I reviewed. Is it Stone Man? Dr. Stone. You can go and watch Dr. Stone. He explains it incredibly well. But I've also studied it as part of my like anatomy studies and all that crap. So he gets a sulfate drug injected using like a laser directly into him, and then so he's able to rouse himself and he's able to go. We find out that Magneto's scheme is that he wants to use the Warren Worthington's Angel's parents to create an army of mutant slaves using their like genetic code, and he builds this like super ridiculous device. And then Iceman interrupts him, and then they get into a fight. Meanwhile, the X-Men are able to come down from their like dirigible successfully using all their powers, and then they start fighting Magneto, and then they come to a standstill where it looks like Magneto's starting to win as usual. But then, dun dun dun, Professor X is able to like summon the Stranger. Oh, so what we find out is that the Stranger took Magneto and Toad to like a zoo world essentially, and left them there to their own devices, and then Magneto was able to like turn a broken down like atomic powered spaceship into a working spaceship, and then he said, "Adios, Toad," and Toad's like, "No, Master, no!" And he's like, "Peace out, bitches." And so he left. But then Professor X was able to summon the Stranger back and be like, "Hey, Magneto escaped your planet. He's here." And so the Stranger like zooms it down, and then him and Magneto go on like a chase, which we don't find out the conclusion to. But that's how we save the day. Again, the X-Men sort of saved the day through happenstance. But it was fun. Magneto's a great villain, and he continues to be like cartoonish. Oh, and then the kids all like change, and they like wake up the parents, and then they have like, "Oh, hey, we're all here having a good time, enjoying our respite or whatever." And the parents are like, "Oh, this is such a lovely place." Blah, 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 blah. Good stuff. So that's the end of the second Magneto arc of the original X-Men. Catch y'all later.